afternoon, everyone. My name is Paul, and I am a nerd, and you are lucky enough to be attending the July 2014 Worldox Virtual User Group meeting. Today we're going to put our real nerd hats on, and we're going to cover two topics that are particularly nerdy. Mary Jo is going to talk about the integration and how it gets set up and how it works. And by that I mean how it knows what programs it should ask you to save documents into Worldox and which ones it shouldn't ask. And I'm going to talk about something called WDInfo, which is a way of monitoring the indexer. Both very nerdy topics, so today we're gonna put our nerd caps on, as I say. But before we begin, let me do a little housekeeping and explain what this is. This is your GoToWebinar control panel. Yours will look something like this, and you'll notice, oh, Mary Jo's giving me the what the heck, I can't see anything sign. Leanne's rushing into my office to tell me the same thing. So nerdy as I may be, sometimes you just got to know to hit the right buttons. There we go. Now you're looking. Stop teasing me, Mary Jo. Now you're looking at the GoToWebinar control panel. This is how you control the experience. And mainly what you want to do is you want to get rid of this because it may be covering up my screen, and we all know everybody wants to see my screen. So this little button here that looks like arrows pointing to the right, one clicked, will cause this big box to scroll right off your screen. When that happens, this button will turn into one that looks like arrows pointing to the left. Clicking it again will cause this to come back into focus so that you can see it again. Why would you want to do that? Why, of course, because you have a question and you're shy. If you're shy and don't want to talk on mic, you can type a question down here, and don't forget to hit the send button. Leanne, our humble and, gosh, I can't think of an adjective today, our humble and just plain ordinary moderator will notice that you have a question. She will wait for the opportune time. She will interrupt Mary Jo or myself, and she will ask your question on your behalf. Please, if you have follow-up questions, if we're going down the wrong path, if we're not quite answering the question you're asking, please continue to type here and continue to remember to hit send, and Leanne will continue to make sure that we're answering the correct question. If you're not feeling shy, click on this button here that looks like a hand with an arrow pointing upwards in front of it. That means raise your hand. Leanne will notice that you have raised your hand. She will wait once again for the opportune time to interrupt Mary Jo or myself, and then when we are ready, she will unmute your microphone and let you ask your own darn question. So again, that communication, that channel of communication with Mary Jo and myself will remain open until we're done answering your question. So just jump right back in and ask those follow-up questions, or make sure that we're answering the question that you're asking. So without any further ado, I'm going to press the magic buttons and get rid of this and close up that and make sure that I'm showing you, come on, make sure I'm showing you this, and Mary Jo is going to tell us all about integration in Worldox.
Okay, so integration for Worldox is, I guess the goal when we install Worldox and we begin our integration is to have Worldox pop every time we save a document, no matter what type of a document that is, whether it's a PowerPoint, an Excel, a Word, or WordPerfect. Whatever kind of a document we're saving, we want Worldox to be able to ask us where we want to put it away and under which client or profile. So to do that, we need to turn that on. And so in our continuing exploration of WDAdmin, today we're going to talk about that integration. The first thing that we want to do is we want to get into WDAdmin, and again, it's underneath our Worldox folder, and we can go right into, still not keyboard, there we go, what am I doing? There we go. All right, so Worldox admin or WDAdmin.exe, when we open that up, get this stuff out of the way. Paul, you don't have all your stuff open here still. This is like our clients. We go to all these different things and all these windows are popped up. So in WDAdmin, under the edit button, we have the last button on the list here called integration. And in this icon is all of these lists of all the different types of programs that out of the box you can turn on or off for Worldox. So it starts off as A to Z. It's alphabetical, so you can start looking for the programs that you use, and you can start turning those on. And it even has different parts of each program for what you want to do. Do you want to insert pages? Do you want to save PDFs? Do you want to add it to Portfolio Bates Add? All these different things are in here for Adobe. And there's Adobe 10, there's Adobe 6, 8. As I go down here, you can see that all the different ones are in here, Reader and Browser. So make sure that if something's not popping in Adobe, that you've come through, first of all, to see what version of Adobe you have, and then what are you trying to do with it. Are you trying to do a save as? Are you trying to save a copy? What is the thing that you're trying to do when you're saving it that it's not popping on? Then we go into Excel, and again, I'm flipping through. This will go into different practice management systems. So you want to make sure that everything that you're using is checked off on here and the correct versions. And if you have multiple versions in your office, maybe somebody, you have a user still on Word 2007 and somebody has 2010 and somebody has 2013, you're going to want to make sure that you have all of the versions that you're currently using checked off, that you want that to pop up. A couple of things while I'm talking about Word, WordPerfect and Excel is the way that the hooks work on there is through a hard template. Worldox puts its own template in the macro folder and in the template folder for those programs. And it will actually be tightly integrated there. Whenever you open and try to save a document from those programs, it will just automatically go there. A couple of other programs do what we call soft pop, I guess. If you are doing maybe Adobe or a PDF document, it might, after you hit your save, it's going to try to do like its normal save, but then Worldox comes over the top of that and actually pops up and says, okay, here, now we're going to save this and put it away where you want it. So there's a couple of different types there. Now, not all of the programs are on this list. You might have a program that's not listed here, and you need to add that. And Worldox has other hooks that aren't included in the program. They're special ones that we have access to that we can help you install. And you can find, and we can put those in for you that have the different types there.
And so, that's where the question that Leanne just handed me a note on comes from. Somebody said, can you explain integrating with Google Chrome? Mm-hmm. And Google Chrome, we see, is not on this list. So that's a special hook, that there is one available for that, and so we can get that from Worldox, and then we can install that into the correct, what we call INI files. There's two places that we copy and paste some things into that will then add that and turn that kind of a hook on. And sometimes there's even programs that Worldox doesn't have hooks already made for that we don't have access to, and they actually write them. So if you ever have something that's not popping Worldox, we need to know about it so that we can tell Worldox or tell you if there's one actually available for it. Which also brings me to web browsers. A lot of times I'll have users call and say, well, so-and-so's not able to save documents from, a website. And sometimes it's because they're using Chrome or Firefox and they haven't turned it on. Each one of those different types of web browsers have to be turned on. Internet Explorer, all of those. I believe Firefox is on this list, and like Paul said, Chrome is not, so we can get that for you. And the other thing that happens with websites is a lot of times you're trying to upload a file or download and save a file from a court site. And I have this happen quite frequently, whether you're in Internet Explorer or Firefox or whatever, and it doesn't save it, and it doesn't pop Worldox. So a lot of times, 9 times out of 10 in Internet Explorer, if you go into your Internet options on Internet Explorer and allow that particular website through as an exception or a trusted site, that then will allow Worldox to come in and intervene and say, okay, yes, we are going to save this. So that is a huge one that I see quite a bit. The other thing that can happen with that is maybe the court is using a different type of a PDF document. It may not be Adobe. It might be something like Nitro or some other PDF program, and you haven't turned that one on, or you don't have the proper hook for the type of PDF that it is. So those are two things that I see quite a lot that can be fixed as well. And we talked a little bit about the programs that aren't on the list. Again, anytime you have something that's not popping and you can't figure out what to do, we can help you find either the hook provided by Worldox, they can write one, or we can figure out what's
stopping it. Remember, the goal always is to have Worldox pop and everything gets put away into Worldox. That's the whole idea of a closed document management system, is to make everybody save everything into Worldox. So that's where integration is. Once you've checked everything off, you just go ahead and save your integration up here, and that will save your parameters, and that turns it on. Now, this does require a restart of Worldox. So once you've installed a hook or you've turned a hook on, the users will have to log off and log back on, and then that hook will then be available. So once you've turned it on, if somebody says they still can't do it, make sure that they've completely logged out, came back in, and then if it's still not working, then let us know. But that's usually another one of the things that stop it from popping. Any questions?
No more questions, Mary Jo.
Okay, Paul. It's all yours.
Okay. Well, that seems simple enough. I think what stops a lot of people is that they get into here, and like the user that asked about the Google Chrome integration, they don't see it, so they assume it can't be done. But the bottom line is, as Mary Jo said, I don't think we've ever run into anything, Mary Jo, that we couldn't integrate with. Even if they didn't have a special hook that even if it wouldn't show up in here and they didn't have anything else, we're still able to do it. It's just a matter of putting a little bit of extra effort into it. Okay, I'll get out of here. I'm going to go back over here because I'm going to talk about something called WDInfo. Now, WDInfo is a way to monitor your index. Now, most of you know, and just in case you don't, here's the indexer. And this is, it's unusual that the indexer is running on the same machine as I'm operating, but we're a very small installation, and it's just the way we do it. Most firms will have an indexer that's a separate machine that sits off in a corner somewhere. Sometimes it doesn't even have a monitor except one that it shares with other computers. Sometimes it's in a server room. But the bottom line is it's hard to see, and it's hard, therefore, to know when something's wrong with it. You can look at it right here like we are, and you'll see that every 5 or 10 seconds it's scanning and looking for things to index, and that's basically what it does. But if it stops or if something's going on, unless we're looking at it, we're not going to see that. So the people at Worldox developed WDInfo, which is already running, which is why I can't pull it up. And it is, do you see it, Leanne, or Mary Jo? Leanne. Well, it's not there. That's Worldox. Well, you know, I wonder if it's because I'm running the indexer. When we looked at this morning, where we logged in as me, we were, weren't we?
Yeah, it's right here.
There we go. Okay, where are you seeing that? Is that right here?
Yeah, that's right here.
That one right there.
No, it was this one right up here with the little things. You thought that would be.
I thought that was the indexer. Okay. Well, that's your first lesson. We did that on purpose. We wanted to stop laughing. We wanted you to know that if you go into double-click WDInfo and it doesn't seem to be loading, that's because it's already running. And when I came in here, I mistook this for something else, and so here it is. So if we run this and then we close it, it doesn't really go away. It doesn't stop notifying you that, or just stop running, I should say. It just goes down to your tray. The only time this is going to stop now is if I right-click and close it, or if I were to log out. So just to show you, if I close WDInfo, then I come in here and double-click on WDInfo. I am not crazy. It will load, okay? But then once I close it here, it no longer is going to load from here because it's still running. Just because I closed it, it happens to still be running and shows up usually over here. Most of you know that you can customize these and make things like WDInfo always show up here. We're not going to get into that. But there is WDInfo. Now, here we're monitoring two things. We're monitoring the state of the profile groups, or what Worldox calls databases in admin terms, and the state of the users. Now, if I look at users, I will see that P. Purdue and El Cottrell are both logged on. They're both running on this server, and they're running in what's called a mirrored mode. If you have a terminal services box or a terminal server, those sessions run in a non-mirrored mode sometimes. It depends on how you set up your terminal services implementation of Worldox. So this will either say direct or mirrored, and if it's direct, it's most likely a terminal services user that's running it. The reason I say that is because I, Paul Purdue, may be running, may have left Worldox running from home in my terminal services session, and now I'm trying to get in from the office, and if we only have a certain amount of licenses, it's only going to let us a certain number of people in. And so if it's telling me I can't get in because everybody else is in and there's no licenses left, it may be because of that. So when you look at this, you'll be able to tell all the people that are logged in, and also whether or not they're running in a mirrored or direct mode. And it can help. This can help you to identify duplicate users, because even if they were both running in a mirrored mode, you'd see the two P. Purdues here as two separate users. You can see how many current users you have, how many mirrored users and how many direct users, how many your max license is. We're licensed for 4 users. You can also see your key, which you don't really need to see, and when it was last refreshed and how often it's refreshing. By refreshing, it means if I'm not pressing this button, it's going to wait 60 seconds before it goes out to check and see if there's anybody more logged in since the last time I checked. A good way to monitor your users and make sure that you don't have duplicate users. And if you come here and find that you have more than one instance of the same person logged in, this is where you're going to most easily identify that. The other thing that you're going to see is databases. Now, to Worldox, every drive is a potential database. So I've got a C drive on this server, an S drive, and a T drive. And T drive is where we store all our Worldox documents. So that's the only one that we have that has any information as it relates to the indexer. The S drive and C drive show up, but they only show up because they are there. It doesn't mean that they have Worldox documents or that they have any documents on them at all that are Worldox related. This is the drive that's being indexed by Worldox, by the indexer, so this is the one that shows me what I want to see. Just because you see these extra drives doesn't mean there's a problem because they don't have anything next to them. It just means there are drives on that machine. So T drive is the one I want to look at. Now, another thing to consider, we only have Worldox profile groups, or documents I should say, on one drive. But we could have them on 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, depending on how big your firm is and how you've broken things up and how you've structured things and how you set up Worldox. So just like it's not bad that I have a couple drives that don't have anything listed, it's also not bad if you have multiple drives that do have Worldox information next to them. That is quite common. We just don't happen to employ it here. So we can see when the last post was, how many unposted items, we'll talk about posts in a second, when the last text build was, meaning when did we last update our text indexes, how many records we have in the profile database, and how many we have in the text database. Let me explain what that means. We have 24,142 documents in Worldox. Every document has a profile. You've seen it when you're in Worldox. You fill out a little profile. Let me just so you know what I'm talking about. This right here is the profile. The information that's in this profile, here's one that's probably from our client group. The information that's in this profile is what's called the profile. So if I go back and look at this, we've got 24,142 profile records. That pretty much means we have 24,142 documents. We have 22,884 of these documents for which we have indexed the text. Why is it less? Some of these documents are things that can't be indexed. They're either protected PDF files that have a password that the text indexer can't get to, or they're images, or there's some other type of a file that's not text indexable. So just the fact that we have stuff in here indicates that this is running all right. The fact that we have the last post was made today and the text index was rebuilt today, that indicates that the indexer is running. And the fact that we have 0 unposted items, that indicates that the indexer is running and it is caught up. Now, what's a posted item? If I go in here and open this document, I'm going to open up this fake HIPAA agreement for Mary Jo. The indexer will show that I opened that up. That's a post. That's something that's being posted to the audit files, posted to Worldox, that's maintaining a record of that open of that document. Even though I didn't save it yet, I didn't edit it, I haven't done anything, the fact that I've opened it. Worldox has now noticed that. If it hadn't, if for some reason the indexer were stopped, when I looked at this here, it would have 1 unposted item, meaning that there was one thing that it was waiting to catch up on. So anytime you see something other than 1, or other than 0, it could indicate there's a problem. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean there's a problem. If you have a firm of 70 Worldox users and people are opening and looking at and saving and editing and doing whatever is being posted to the audit files on a regular basis, this might almost always be at 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. But as long as your last post was pretty common or pretty current with the time it is now, then you know that it's okay. Now, we do have a way for you to monitor the health of Worldox. They call it an email regarding Worldox health. And first off, I can set my email properties so that it knows how to send this mail. And most often what you're going to do is use your Exchange server. You're going to put the Exchange server IP, the port, and the type of communication, and whether or not it requires authentication. And if it does, which an Exchange server does, you're going to put a username, a password, and you're going to confirm the password. That'll usually be set up for you, usually by us. Then you can add a new event file, and you can say every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever days at a certain time, I want this person to be emailed regarding the health of Worldox. And what you'll essentially get in that email is a snapshot of this information here. So you'll get an email that looks pretty much just like these screens, giving all this information. We'll also show you about your users, and you'll get it sent to you at a predetermined time. That way you don't even have to go look at the WDInfo program unless you suspect there's a problem. So bottom line, WDInfo lives here once it's been loaded. That's the icon for it. You can open it by using that. I've just opened a second copy, so I'll close this one. You can load it for the first time by going to the Worldox folder and double-clicking on WDInfo. Once you're in there, you can see information about users and information about the databases. Not going to give you a whole wealth of information, but it gives you the information that's necessary to make sure that the indexer is running and that you don't have duplicate users logged in. Do you have any questions, Leanne?
Nope, there are no questions, Paul.
Awesome. Well, that is it for today. Next month, we are going to talk about, I'll talk about running in offline mode. That means you're disconnected from Worldox, but you're still able to operate Worldox. A lot of confusion about how that works and what that means, so we'll try and clear that all up. Mary Jo's going to continue in her quest to cover absolutely everything that there is about WDAdmin, and she's going to talk about group security. Just so you know, and by golly, you sure ought to because we talk about it every time, if we go to Attorney Computer Systems, the recorded versions of these webinars, once you scroll down, actually the recorded versions of all the different virtual user groups meetings we have, including tabs 3, Practice Master, and this one, which is Worldox, along with our Coffee Pot webinars, our eBytes video series featuring Mary Jo, and the one and only Paul and Mary Jo show. They are all here. So if you ever miss a Worldox virtual user group meeting, you can just come here. Usually it's about, maybe a week after the FUG, the virtual user group meeting, and this will show up as a recorded version. Of course, this is where you can register for the one that's currently going on or the one that's scheduled, or where you can go to look for the prior content. So just as you scroll down here, you'll realize that just about everything we've ever done, Worldox or tabs 3 or Practice Master wise, is here. So a wealth of video information available to you. That's it for today. Everybody have a good afternoon and a good rest of the day, and we will see you next month. Thanks much. Bye-bye.